Good afternoon. It's October the 15th on a beautiful Saturday, 2022. I'm Dr. Ramon Martinez from La Raza Historical Society, and I'm downtown in San Jose, and I want to show you a monument that's here that will help people remember the legacy of Dr. Ernesto Galarza. I'm working with City of San Jose and other groups on a history of Alviso, and Dr. Galarza worked in Alviso in the 1970s when Alviso was being considered to be annexed to San Jose. It was a big political issue, and you'll know more about it from this history project. Meanwhile, I want to remind everyone about some of his accomplishments. First of all, the monument downtown has these ribbons inlaid in the ground. They run all the way to San Jose State University. But they say quotations from his, about him and people who knew him. So here's one that says, "He treated us all as equals. He was one of our heroes. His most cherished dream was that someday all people would be the beneficiaries of democracy, freedom, and justice." Then these ribbons continue, and they're in English and in Spanish, each one telling about who he was. Here's another view of the table. It has a chair. It's got different quotations on it. It has photographs. It's got spikes. A big hat. Photographs and explanations. A pick. A rake. Remembering our agricultural heritage as farm workers in the fields. Vale más la revolución que viene que la que se fue. This means that the revolution that's coming is worth more than the revolution that went by, the revolution of yesterday. Here's a picture of him. He was born in Mexico in 1905, immigrated to Sacramento, California, went to school. That story is told in many, many places. Just look up Ernesto Galarza on the net. But basically, he was educated in Sacramento in American schools. He was the first Mexican American to go and graduate from Stanford University. He was then received a doctorate from a university on the East Coast, and he spent his life working on issues regarding agriculture and corporate business. This hat is a replica of a hat he used to wear when he was working in his garden. He retired to San Jose after a lifetime of work, and he lived over in the Willow Glen area, and he had a garden in his backyard. I remember visiting him, sitting in his garden with his big hat. Here's a picture of him and his wife, May Galarza. And he and May were that young couple in the 1930s that were modern, had no patience for what was wrong with the world, and they traveled the world joining movements they traveled the world involved in projects that would help people everywhere. They started a progressive school in the 1930s in the Washington, D.C. area. Dr. Galarza was involved with the Southern Tenant Farmers Union with H.L. Mitchell in the 1930s, trying to organize farm people. In this case, the Southern Tenants Union was black sharecroppers, and the laws of the United States did not protect agricultural workers in any way. This chair might refer to the fact that he was an academic. He studied international migrant agricultural labor. He received the main prize of the Bolivian government in the 1930s, and he talked about farm worker migrants as an issue across the world. They were cheap slave labor to any country, and he talked about ideas on how to improve countries where they are, how to help people stay where they are, and how to reform American agricultural law so that farm workers would get a fair share of what they worked for. Here's a poem. I'm not sure if he wrote it, but it says, the poem is called Could Be. I only sang because the lonely road was long, and now the road and I are gone, but not the song. I only spoke the verse to pay for borrowed time, and now the clock and I are broken, but not the rhyme. Possibly the self not being fundamental, eternity breathes only on the incidental. So Dr. Galarza was the precursor before Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez is the chapter after the work of Dr. Galarza. Dr. Galarza struggled and lost many battles, but Cesar Chavez studied the losses. He worked with Dr. Galarza, who gave him ideas about what to do and what not to do. Here are bracero farm workers who were brought to the United States in the 1940s, when the men here had to go to war. Los braceros leen, son braceros mexicanos, van a trabajar en los Estados Unidos, leen los contratos de trabajo mientras esperan leer el periódico. So these farm workers are from Mexico. They're going to the United States. They're reading their contracts and waiting to read the newspaper. Here's a photograph of Dr. Galarza as a teenager on a burro. I believe the picture was taken in Mexico, but if it's possible it was taken in the United States. This is a picture of his mother. She was a single mother. He was her only son. They came from a village in Nayarit, Mexico. And she taught him how to read from a cookbook that she had. This is Dr. Ernesto Galarza, the teacher, the professor. Education can be thought of as progress of the individual, powered by his own experience, observation, feeling, thought, curiosity, and biological endowment, rather than to be the power of adults over him. This is motivation in the genuine sense, the forward movement of personality towards enlarging circles of experience anchored in a sense of worth and success in the past. What a mind. La educación puede considerarse como el progreso del individuo, ayudado por su propia experiencia, observación, sentimiento, curiosidad y su talento biológico, en lugar del poder que los adultos tengan sobre él. Esto es la motivación en su sentido genuino, el movimiento continuo de la personalidad hacia los círculos extendidos de la experiencia, asentados en un sentido de valor propio y triunfo en el pasado.